This is a film about the bones in the human body, about your bones, and how some of them can be damaged and what happens when they are. The bones of the skull are there to protect your brain, the most important part of the body. If the skull gets damaged, you're in real danger. From the base of the skull, a set of separate bones called vertebrae run down the back of your body, your spine. Running through a sort of tunnel formed by the vertebrae and so protected by the spine, there's the spinal cord. Thick bundles of nerve fibres which connect the brain to every part of your body. Here's an actual human spinal cord. Its covering's been removed and you can see the thick nerve cables. Here, they divide to pass down each leg. Damage to your spine means damage to your spinal cord. You could be paralyzed, for example. There's a less serious but still very painful and crippling thing that can happen to your spine. In between the vertebrae, there are what are called discs, intervertebral discs. They act as shock absorbers and they're like rubbery bags filled with a special fluid. The spinal cord runs just behind them. The discs work properly even when you put a strain on them if your spine's upright like this, so that each disc gets a fairly even loading from the vertebrae above it. But if you bend your back while putting a strain on it, you can damage the discs. Mark's going to pick up a heavy lawnmower. He shouldn't bend his back to do this. Watch what might happen. There's his spine and the nerves of his spinal cord. As he straightens up to lift the load, the vertebrae get pinched together at an angle, like this. One of the discs can rupture at the wider end, and then the inside spills out. This spilt stuff quickly hardens, and if it ends up pressing on a nerve, you become crippled by the intense pain of what's often called a slipped disc. What you should do is this. Bend your legs and not your back. The spine stays upright. Loading on the discs will be nice and even, and you do no damage. See how his back stays straight. It's better still to get help. Kay, too, bends her legs and not her back. Here's another way in which you can get back trouble, a slipped disc.
Okay.
The car's broken down and Mark's got to push it off the road, but not like this. Once again, this would put uneven pressures on his intervertebral discs.
All right, Kay.
This is how to do it. Keeping the back straight all the time. That's the spine. There are plenty of other bones in the body, and these too can be damaged. They can get broken, fractured, and you need hospital treatment. But fractures need the right care while you're waiting to get to hospital, and you should know some simple first aid. Let's suppose that Sharon has hurt her wrist. It's very painful, and she suspects a fractured wrist. This is a common injury. The two bones of the forearm get fractured here. Now, with any fracture, you must support the injured limb so that the broken ends of bone cannot move. If you put any sort of strain on a fracture, you'll make it much more serious. So don't do this. Support the place where the bone's broken and get help. Neil's damaged his leg, a fracture or fractures below his knee. Again, he must try to keep the injured leg supported while he waits for help. She very gently lowers his leg to the floor. Then a rolled-up newspaper will do as a splint, immobilizing his broken leg. There it is. It's tied with 2 handkerchiefs to his uninjured leg. And if you haven't got a stretcher, you can still carry the casualty without doing further damage if you know how. At the hospital, they use X-rays to find out what the damage is and later how well broken bones are healing. This is Michelle. She was run over 6 weeks ago and her leg was broken. It was put in plaster and now she's back to have a new plaster fitted. They've taken the old one off and they're X-raying her leg before putting on the new plaster.
Fine now, very still.
The fractured bones have started to heal by now, but the radiographer must still handle her leg very gently so as not to disturb the bones at all. She's put another photographic plate under the leg to get a picture from a different angle. Michelle wasn't smiling like this when she was rushed into hospital 6 weeks ago. Here's the first X-ray picture they took then. That grid's a splint they put on. There's the outline of her leg. And there were 2 fractured bones. The jagged end of one of them was actually poking out through her skin. This is one of today's pictures, which we've just seen being taken. For 6 weeks, her leg's been completely supported in a plaster cast, and you can see how new bone has grown to heal the fractures. This process will continue until the bones are as good as new again, but she'll need another plaster cast to protect the bones from moving while this happens. There's the scar showing where that broken bone pierced her skin. Now for the plastering. First, they put a stocking over her leg. And watch how they keep her legs still all the time they're working on it. These bandages contain the plaster. They're wetted in water, then wrapped carefully around Michelle's leg.
Now the important thing now is that we accept this position of this fracture because it is uniting. So sister puts this bandage of plaster on for you. I'm glad you're not a footballer.
When the plaster dries, in 12 hours or so, it will form a tight, hard case, which will keep the leg absolutely immobilized while those fractures slowly but steadily continue to heal. It takes a bit of time doing this, but Michelle doesn't mind.
Put that leg down on the chair.
I'll put the pillow.
Could I have the pillow, please, Bill? Hello? How's that? All right.
Now we're going to take out.
The damaged bones won't be able to move inside the cast, and after a while, Michelle will have it taken off, and she'll be able to walk and run again, just as she could before the accident. Her leg was broken by a motor car. And it's road accidents which cause very many of the bone injuries, some slight, some serious, which fill the hospitals.
Well, I spun the wheel out to miss hitting her in the back of the car, and there was a Volkswagen approaching on the other side, and he just ran me full tilt. Knocked me right across the road. The gear lever smashed my kneecap into 3 pieces, and I had the hip dislocated, a cracked rib, and damaged chest.
Were you wearing a seatbelt?
No, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Oh, well, this is a very common pattern that we see. If they're not belted in and they have a relatively low velocity accident, they're thrown forward, their knees strike the dashboard, their chest strikes the steering wheel, and their head often goes through the windscreen, producing a combination of injuries that's only too familiar. And all these would have be either completely prevented or minimized had the belts been in use.
This man's going to hit something, but he's safely belted in. He's on a special test rig which suddenly stops him when he's travelling at exactly 30 miles an hour. Did you see how the impact made the whole heavy test rig jump into the air? That gives you some idea of the force of the impact. Watch it again. Now watch it in slow motion and see how well the seatbelt restrains him. He comes to no harm. Again in slow motion. The surgeon shows what happens when people don't wear seatbelts.
Well, here we have a typical driver and his girlfriend sitting in a car. He's not wearing a seatbelt. And supposing that this car, doing 30 miles an hour, is in violent collision with another vehicle or with a fixed object such as a wall or a tree. Now, this man, he's not restrained in any way by a belt, so if the car stops suddenly, he's going to be thrown forward. And the things that will happen are that as he goes forward, his chest will strike the steering wheel and likely produce a fracture of the sternum, the breastbone, or the ribs, because this will hit the wheel. His head will then be thrown forward into the windscreen and shatter the windscreen, producing a head injury and probably severe lacerations with the broken glass. I now want to illustrate what happens when the person sitting in the passenger seat is involved in an accident. This is a more dangerous seat, of course, than the driver's seat, because although the steering wheel can produce injuries to the chest, of course, there's nothing to restrain the forward movement of the body here. And if the car is in a collision and stops suddenly, then the person here is going to be thrown forward. And the person I would mention, of course, that the person in the seat's often the girlfriend of the driver or a female person, and is at a greater risk than the driver, because the body goes forward, and the first thing to strike usually is the head against the windscreen, and this breaks the windscreen. The head and face are usually badly cut. If the force continues to act, the person may actually be thrown clear out of the front of the car, through the windscreen, and of course finish on the road.
Let's watch that happen on the test rig. He's not belted in this time. See him pitch forward? He weighs 13 stone. If he weighed less, he'd be shot right off the end of the rig. That was slow motion. You can see how it hit the windscreen if you were in a real car. The lower part of your body can also be injured through not wearing a seatbelt.
In the lower part of the body, the knees will come into contact with the fascia board, producing often a fracture of the kneecap.
This man broke his kneecap. It's in plaster. There it is after it had happened. His thigh bone, the 2 bones of his lower leg, and there's the smashed kneecap. This is what broken knees look like just after an accident. This woman smashed both against the parcel shelf.
If the force continues to act violently, then of course the knee striking here with the knee and hip being in the flexed position, there's a grave danger that he will also get a dislocation, a posterior dislocation of his hip joint on one or other side.
The same patient again. As well as a broken kneecap, his left hip joint was dislocated. On the X-ray, there's his pelvis, and his right hip joint's all right, but the left one's being pushed right out of joint. The top of the thigh bone's here, when it should have been down here. The force of the impact pushed it up. Things like this are even more likely to happen to a front seat passenger who's not strapped in. Driver and passenger must wear seat belts, and head restraints as well if they can, to prevent neck injuries, which are very common in accidents. Always wear your seat belt. You know, it's one thing just to hear about injuries, but take a look at what actually happened to just one driver who got into a 35 miles an hour collision when he wasn't using his seat belt. He died at the roadside. If four-wheel vehicles are dangerous, motorbikes are even worse.
Motorcycles are very dangerous because people riding them are not surrounded by the superstructure of a motor car, and of course it's the rider that gets the impact and not the machine.
This motorcyclist came off at 40 miles an hour and hit the curb. He had a broken leg as well. The side of his chest was torn open when his motorbike hit a lorry. His eyes were seriously damaged at the same time. He went over his handlebars, face down onto a road. He also broke an arm and a leg. So here are your facts for life. Learn how to avoid things like straining your back. Learn simple first aid. And above all, whether you're on a motorway or on the ordinary road near your home, take care and always use seat belts. This is human blood. You've each of you got only 5 or 6 litres of it in your body. Don't throw it away.
You can make a contribution to the last 2 programs in this series by sending in questions or comments from your school. Details are given on page 27 of the Facts for Life Teacher's booklet. Please send your questions as soon as possible.